Was Hunter Biden prosecuted for political purposes? Absolutely. He was. Because the things that he was prosecuted for are things that Republicans like, okay? Tax evasion and also gun ownership. All right, we're not going to check the mini tab right now. Let's get to the news, all right? As I was saying, Joseph Robinette Brandon, ladies and gentlemen, Joseph Robinette Brandon has offered a blanket pardon to his son, Hunter Biden. Let's get started on the story.
Decision to issue a blanket pardon for his son, Hunter, a reversal from promises he made during the campaign. Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce starts us off. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, George. Well, this is something that President Biden and this White House were adamant that he would not do. But this morning, with just weeks left in office, the president is now protecting his only living son with a sweeping pardon. Overnight, a sudden reversal. President Biden issuing a full and unconditional pardon of his son Hunter, ending a legal saga that the president now says was politically motivated. Biden had long promised he would not interfere with his son's cases, telling our David Muir in June such a pardon was not an option.
Will you accept the jury's outcome, their verdict, no matter what it is?
Yes.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
But now Biden says he believes his son was selectively and unfairly prosecuted, writing in a statement, no reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he is my son, and that is wrong. The president accusing his political opponents of trying to break Hunter, who has been sober now for over 5 years, saying in trying to break Hunter, they've tried to break me, and there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Enough is enough.
I'm extremely proud of my son, Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know.
Hunter Biden was convicted in June on federal gun charges for lying on a federal form about his drug addiction when he bought this Colt revolver in 2018. And in September, he pleaded guilty in a last-minute deal to 9 tax-related charges, accused of avoiding paying $1.4 million in taxes while living lavishly, taxes he had since paid back. He was scheduled to be sentenced later this month in each case, potentially facing more than a decade in prison. But now Hunter, seen with his father over this past holiday weekend, will...
So a lot of this story, I mean, this story is hilarious for every part of it, okay? Number one, was Hunter Biden prosecuted for political purposes? Absolutely, okay? He was. Because, and I said this back then as well, the things that he was prosecuted for are things that Republicans like, okay? Tax evasion and also gun ownership, any sort of hurdles against gun ownership, Republicans hate that shit. So ideologically, Hunter Biden was doing stuff that Republicans love to do, lying on a gun ownership form, only to find out that, they were lying. He was lying on the gun ownership form later because he stupidly wrote it in a book that he was on crack cocaine in the time of his purchase of a gun. All that stuff is hilarious. Okay, this is exactly the type of shit that like Republicans would yell at the Democrats for over lawfare. Having said that, Biden spent years saying, "Oh, I'm not going to touch the Justice Department. I'm not going to do politics in the Justice Department. I'm not going to do that. Let it run its course. Let it run its course." First, he tried to get first the DOJ gave a sweetheart plea deal to Hunter Biden. The Republicans caught wind of that, got very mad, and then made it a much larger story. Then an independent investigation was conducted and found him guilty again. Okay. They tanked the sweetheart plea deal. Okay. Which is an understandable thing that you would have gotten if you were a wealthy person in a position of power. It's inappropriate, but it is the way it is in the United States of America for the most part for every wealthy person, especially wealthy individuals who are directly related to power. Having said that, however, Joe Biden and the Democratic Party loves institutions, norms, civility, and defending the sanctity of these institutions. So for them to turn around and for Biden to turn around and like openly go against this is fantastic. It's hilarious. The only thing that is frustrating to me about this entire process is like, why won't they drop institutional norms for anything good? Why does it always have to be purely to like defend your son. I don't give a shit about Hunter Biden going to jail or not going to jail. I don't care. You will never be able to convince me that this is like a gross misuse of the federal authorities. Like, it's just so annoying. I want the Democrats to operate like this, but for good shit, not for pure selfish reasons. Okay? But what makes it even funnier is that these guys love hypocrisy baiting while being institution defenders. And the irony here is that they openly showed once again that they don't give a f-. And Joe Biden's statement on it was, this is lawfare. This is political. This is like bullshit. You know who else said that? Donald Trump. Donald Trump. You can't say that while you spent the last couple of years hunting Donald Trump, and the only thing you were able to lock him down on was like paying hush money to a porn star that he with a misuse of campaign funds. And you couldn't even get him on that. You got his lawyer on that. So what did you get him on? You got Donald Trump on changing you got him on like paperwork. Okay. That's the only thing you were able to get him on, paperwork. All of a sudden, this is Trump world, is Trump universe. If I'm Donald Trump, I'm celebrating. I'm throwing up numbers on the board, because not only does this show that the Democrats don't care about norms, institutions, blah, 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 all this shit, they also recognize the reality of lawfare. So all of a sudden, this is like a perfect silver platter opportunity for Donald Trump to turn around and be like, well, you see, I told you it was lawfare. They also recognize it when it happens to them. It's crazy. It's crazy. Now, before people say, oh, well, Hasan, Donald Trump did this. Yeah, I know, dude. I know he did. I don't even give a shit that, one, I don't give a shit that Joe Biden did this. I can't stress this enough. Of course he was going to do this. Get the f*** out of here. Okay? Number two, I do give a shit that Donald Trump did it. Okay? Because the stuff that Donald Trump did this for, the pardon powers that he used, was for like murderers. Okay? For people who have done unimaginably bad things. Like, he specifically went in and pushed the military to no longer prosecute a war criminal. You know how hard it is for the Marines or for the American military to go, yeah, this guy was a little bit too crazy? You know how hard that is with Eddie Gallagher? You know how hard it is for the American military to go, yeah, this one guy may be a little bit too crazy. His own unit narked on him. His own unit, Eddie Gallagher, his own unit snitched on him. And that is after they openly said they were up his sights, his scopes on his weapons, so he couldn't snipe children. Donald Trump saw that process and went, you got to stop that. That's a hero right there. You're going to give him his medals back. Think about how insane that is. Okay? Anyway, so there are people that I never really gave a shit that Trump used his pardon power on, and I even said was good, you know. Getting ASAP Rocky out of jail, good stuff. You know, I guess pardoning Kodak Black is interesting. You know, I don't care about it too much. There's already far too many people. There's already far too many people that are in prison to begin with. Okay. But the notion that that this is a you know, I just don't know. I don't know why like liberals are so stupid. That's what I got to say on this. Even Republicans have basically looked at the situation. Even Republicans have basically looked at the situation and were like, great, I'm glad that Biden did this. Of course he was going to do this. It's his son. And, you know, now no one can claim that we're being ridiculous when we want to pardon the January 6ers. And to be fair, yeah, I mean, who cares if the January 6ers get pardoned? Okay, I don't give a shit. Yeah, I don't care. Yeah. Dinesh D'Souza, who was pardoned by Donald Trump, is complaining about Hunter Biden being pardoned. That's also funny. There are this is a hilarious situation across the board. Okay, no one is above the law except my son Hunter, says Dinesh D'Souza. Dinesh D'Souza was pardoned by Donald Trump. Dinesh D'Souza's criminal trial was also so funny because it was like he is the one guy that so openly and so obviously was compromised, and in the way that he carried himself, he's the one guy that went to jail for campaign finance laws. Okay, he did straw donations for his friend. What is this? He did straw donations. Dinesh D'Souza did straw donations for his school friend, okay, who still lost by like 75 points. And it was spectacular because you don't need to do straw donations in America. You just use super PACs. And yet this dumb still try to do straw donations. And he went to jail for it. And he did a whole documentary about it. Also today, the mules were fake. My bad. Oh my God. Dinesh D'Souza also apologized for the two. What a loser. All right. I'm all over the place right now. My ADHD is going out of control. Let's continue with this.
None of that. The president's pardon is sweeping, covering not just those charges, but any uncharged crimes between 2014 and 2024.
That blanket pardon is pretty crazy, by the way. It goes hard. It's like Hunter Biden until last night had the opportunity to do more crimes and he would be free of federal prosecution, which is crazy. In my opinion, that's just... So it doesn't annoy you that the son of the author of the crime bill, who was responsible for destroying the lives of so many black Americans, gets to walk free of the same crime? No, it doesn't. I mean, everything that Biden does annoys me. I hate him, but it doesn't annoy me beyond like, I don't know. It doesn't annoy me beyond the fact that it's just like, who gives a shit? He had 24 hours to assassinate Trump and he failed. Yeah, because it's not it's like, I don't think anybody should be going to jail for some of the crimes that Hunter Biden could have potentially faced criminal penalties over. Like tax evasion, it's completely unacceptable, right? Lying on your forms when you're purchasing a gun, also completely unacceptable. Having said that, however, these are both instances where there's a shit ton of lenience, especially in terms of like tax evasion is one of those crimes where it's like, if you get caught doing it, they come after you and they say, you have to pay this fee. And then that's it. You know what I mean? That's it. You pay it back. You're like, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize this was the case. I'm paying it back, which is, exactly what he did, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you pay it back plus a penalty. It's just like complete fake outrage. The people that are like genuinely upset about this. I guess like the only thing I'm upset about it is that like Democrats don't use this kind of like Democrats don't use this kind of like obvious grift and hypocrisy and abuse or the misuse of power that you have for anything good. And I despise that. Okay. I hate that they don't do that. It's very frustrating to me. And I wish they did it for like actually good things. He should do this for broad clemency. Like he should do that. He should do this. Hold on 1 second.
For months, the president intentionally avoided commenting on the specifics of his son's cases, not wanting to give the appearance of interfering, instead stressing his support for Hunter as a father.
I love him, and he's on a straight and narrow, and he has been for a couple of years now, and I'm just so proud of him.
While at the White House, aides were emphatic that the president would not step in on his son's behalf.
We've been asked that question multiple times. Our answer stands, which is no.
But now the president says, here's the truth. I believe in the justice system. But as I have wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infected this process, and it led to a miscarriage of justice. Adding, I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision. The about face comes just weeks before President-elect Donald Trump is set to take office. Trump has vowed retribution against his political opponents and has repeatedly bashed Hunter and the Biden family, accusing them without evidence of corruption. President Biden clearly did not want to leave his son's fate in the hands of Trump's Justice Department. Now, in a statement and a post, Trump says the pardon is the abuse and miscarriage of justice here, while in a statement, his spokesman argues the president's move underscores Trump's claims that the Justice Department has been weaponized, saying, quote, that must be fixed, and saying that is what Trump intends to do when he returns to the White House. George.
Okay, Mary, thanks. Let's bring our chief legal analyst, Dan.
It's like, oh man, I can't believe the Justice Department is weaponized against you. That's crazy. That's crazy. I can't believe that happened. Also, now Trump can just like turn around and say, this is what has happened to me. That's a crazy thing to say. Plenty of evidence. Hunter was corrupt. Wait, what? No, Hunter was in direct violation of the law. The point is, this is the type of shit that like under normal circumstances, you would expect leniency over. And especially when it's like someone who is wealthy and powerful, they always get leniency over it. And the reality is, the reality of the matter is like, yeah, it is yet another instance of like the Republican Party very clearly creating drama surrounding it. as far as like Hunter's corruption goes, he did like basic nepotism shit in Burisma, if that's what you guys are talking about. He basically lied to the Ukrainians about how much access he had to the government when he had no real valid opportunity to influence the government at all. And his dad, literally, as the vice president, actually moved against him and against his position in Burisma. So much so that, like, you know, numerous investigations were conducted by the Republicans that wanted to make this a much larger deal, and they couldn't. They openly recognized that they failed to even make any movement. It seems like you're defending the corruption of the Justice Department by acting like this isn't a disgusting display of corruption. No, it is. My point is, I'm of two different minds on this. Like, the one thing is, if you think this is the grossest misuse of justice or whatever, it's not. Okay, under normal circumstances, like, I don't think anybody should be hit with the max penalty and be imprisoned for something like this. Okay, like, especially when they don't even have access to the gun anymore, you know, and they've already rehabilitated. Do you see what I'm saying? The reality is, you and I are on the same page on this. You also don't think all of those people who are unjustifiably put in prison should be there. And I agree with you. And I think Joe Biden should be like, hey, what I did for Hunter, I'm going to do for everybody else as well. That would be the just process in this circumstance. He'll never do that because he's a corrupt pussy. I think that would be sick if he was like, listen, there are a lot of people who are in prison for far too long when they shouldn't be, and I'm going to pardon them as well. Happy Thanksgiving. Chatter before was right, though. This guy wrote the crime bill, but when the Justice Department's brutality is aimed at his own, it's not okay. No, I understand the inconsistency there. You're not wrong. I agree. Like, I agree. Nothing good will ever happen. And it raises, and he still doesn't want his crime bill undone, even though it's a stain on his career. Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. You're 100% correct. The man who wrote the crime bill, who's the architect of the crime bill, which has been devastating for Black and brown communities and poor people in general in this country, turns around and finds in his heart leniency and clemency for his own kin. All right. Oh, all of a sudden he's got it. Like, if you're pointing to that inconsistency, yeah, you're 100% right. Of course. The problem here is that it's not like no side of this is correct. You know what I mean? Like, you think Republicans actually care about the pure graft here? They care. They're like, oh, wait a minute. We got to make sure this dangerous criminal Hunter Biden needs to be taken out of the streets. Like, no, they don't give a shit. They don't give a shit at all. I mean, even the Democrats don't give a shit. That's what's so crazy about it. Even the Democrats don't give a shit. They dropped Trump's cases already because he's president now. Okay? So I guess they weren't wrong. I guess Trump wasn't wrong when he said, this is lawfare. You're only coming after me because I'm standing in the way, you know? Which is it? You can't say Trump is a fascist criminal monster, which I agree with, by the way, and is like a hilariously bad, hilariously incompetent criminal, okay? And so open about directly violating the law so frequently, but you can't actually point to that and then be like, yeah, but I guess he's president now, so it doesn't matter. He's rich, he's white, he's president. We can't do anything about it. Let's drop everything. It's so stupid. You're actively undermining any sort of argument that you had. Democrats in this past year and a half have basically gone back on every single position that they have maintained for the past 8 years. Trump is a fascist, but we have to kiss the ring. Trump is corrupt, but we have to drop his charges. Okay? Turns out lawfare does exist. And it was actually lawfare that the Republicans were able to weaponize against my son, Hunter Biden, who's done nothing wrong. Trump is a racist for wanting to build the border wall, but actually the border wall is good and we want to build it now. And Trump is a hypocrite for getting in the way of building that border wall. It's ridiculous. And then people yell at me when I say we have a uniparty approach to so many of these issues. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I genuinely don't know what to say. Anyway, the most immediate effect I've seen about this is that Dem voters are just saying, I don't like it, but Trump is worse, lowering the bar even more. Like, I get where they're coming from too. Because for the Democrats, they're like, oh, finally, we get a W. They're wrong. They don't get a W at all. Okay? They don't get a W at all. Violate norms and institutions, violate institutional norms and violate the principle of civility for good shit and not for like your own personal your own personal interest. Okay? And this is, of course, after I have already celebrated freeing my man Hunter, because having a big cock and smoking crack should not be illegal. Okay? That's right. Free him.
Abrams, we saw the president's words there, called it a miscarriage of justice, said Hunter was selectively and unfairly prosecuted. From a legal perspective, is that a good argument?
He has an argument, but he certainly has an argument with regard to the gun charge, right? There has never been another federal charge of someone charged under this set of facts, meaning the gun wasn't used in more than one crime, the person had no criminal record, the gun wasn't used.
Like, this is all valid, by the way. I mean, it is lawfare. But in the same vein that it is like Trump's rampant corruption and open corruption is also being weaponized against him in the same sense.
In a crime.
No, he didn't have his criminal record is spotless, because when you get caught with cocaine in your blood, but you're the son of like a senator, they don't do anything about it.
So that's the definition of selective prosecution.
Correct. You can definitely argue with regard to the gun charge. Now, the issue is that the gun charge got tacked on in connection with the plea agreement that initially happened and fell through. The tax cases is a little tougher. Yes, it's true that in a lot of cases, when someone doesn't pay their taxes, they're allowed to pay them back. And at worst, they just get a fine. It's also true that in certain cases, people get prosecuted for not paying their taxes. So it's a little squishier with regard to the tax charge as to whether this was clearly selective prosecution.
How about the idea this was a blanket pardon, protecting his son for anything that might have happened since 2014?
Well, look, that is certainly as sweeping as you can make it. And there is an argument that he could have done something much more limited, meaning granting him clemency. That would have meant the conviction stand, but with regard to a sentence, he doesn't get any jail time. There is no sentence. That's what clemency could have done. He didn't do that. He granted him pardon on the two charges, plus on anything he could conceivably prosecuted for.
Out of fear that he might be prosecuted.
Well, and
by
because there are a lot of people on the right in particular who have been talking about a variety of crimes that they wish that Hunter Biden had been charged with, that he should have been charged with, et cetera. And I think that's the reason that one happened. But it's interesting when you hear the president's team, the president-elect's team, talk about the Department of Justice and weaponization. It's a little tough to say that because this Department of Justice is the department that went after Hunter Biden. So it's now the president stepping in to protect Hunter Biden from his Department of Justice. And I think it's an important point to remember in this context.
It is. Dan Abrams.
One other thing that I have to point to here is obviously like how openly he lied. Here's the 9-minute straight supercut of Biden regularly saying he would never violate the law or go against the decisions of the DOJ.
Presidential promise to put the law before family.
I said I abide by the jury decision. I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
Letting the world know that he will not wipe away the decision of 12 of his son's peers.
Was asked directly, and he has said he wouldn't pardon his son if he gets convicted.
Let's wait and see what happens if he loses.
Yeah, but he said it.
He's going to get pardoned by his dad. There's no question about that.
The president has ruled out pardoning his son.
Major commitment from the president, accepting the outcome of the trial and also pledging not to pardon his son.
So the challenge for him is really to continue to live up to his values when it was really personal, and he did that today.
It seems like a pretty normal, straightforward answer, but it takes new weight when we see what Trump is saying about the outcome of his trial, what we're hearing from other Republicans who say they don't accept the jury's verdict here in New York.
The contrast is profound. To sit there and say, well, I'm not going to intervene in the legal process, and I wouldn't pardon my son. One side, Democrats and Joe Biden protecting the justice system. And on the other, Republicans and Trump protecting Trump.
Our current president of the United States has so much respect for the law that he has said he would not pardon his son. I mean, again, it's all about the contrast.
President Biden saying, I will respect whatever this jury decides, versus Donald Trump after he was convicted on 34 counts, saying the entire system is rigged against him.
Their latest attack has been that Joe Biden has politicized and weaponized the DOJ, right? That was the whole argument around Donald Trump's conviction. And this week, of course, Hunter Biden was found guilty, and Joe Biden has very clearly said he would not pardon his son, he would not commute his sentence.
Scumbag move, but if I had a kid, I won't lie, I'd do the same thing. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it depends. If you're, like, obviously, if he was, like, found guilty of doing, like, serial killing or pedophilia or whatever, like, then, yeah, no, f- you know, you do your time at that point. But the charges are minimal. The issue here is the hypocrisy is like tenfold, okay? And I'm going to go through it step by step. Number one, he lied and said he wasn't going to interfere in the DOJ, but he obviously ultimately did. Number two, he is responsible for hundreds of thousands of Americans getting worse penalties at the federal level, overall being the architect of the crime bill, okay? Incredibly reactionary towards crime, incredibly draconian. He is a responsible figure for America's 25% incarcerated population, right? He is almost singularly responsible for it. So those rules do not apply to his own son. Those rules only apply to random poor people, okay, regardless of their background. But especially, yes, America houses 25% of the planet's incarcerated population, despite making up only 4% of the planet's entire population. Okay? So that's it. That's number two. Number three, the ways in which he actually pardoned Hunter Biden and claiming that this was lawfare, which is, you know, technically true, right? Like this was a political thing. The ways in which he went in to the pardon, the blanket pardon, saying this is lawfare, this is politics, and that's why I'm pardoning my son. Also, directly gives an out for so many of the Republican grievances. It basically confirms all the Republican grievances that Democrats are corrupt, they're criminal, they don't give a shit about the law, they act like they care about civility, they act like they care about impartiality, they act like they care about like preserving these institutions and their sanctity. They do not. And that's true, they don't, right? But last but not least, okay? Last but not least, the most significant, as a matter of fact, rank hypocrisy here is not even on the virtues of violating institutional norms and giving Donald Trump a perfect opportunity, but the reality that Joe Biden has been violating the law, the Leahy law specifically, in his endless support and loyalty to the state of Israel for the past year and change, for the past like 14 months at this point. And the media has criticized them less for that than they have criticized them for this. In the past 24-hour news cycle, the media has yelled at Joe Biden for his hypocrisy and his violations of institutional norms in this Hunter Biden situation than they have for the past 12 months, 14 months over his direct violation of international human rights and American rules that dictate that you cannot give weapons to an ally that is violating human rights. Israel has done that, and we have consistently continued to give Israel weapons, unlimited amounts of weapons. Biden recently secured $680 million of weapons, or 280? Another $600 million to Israel on his way out. He's still doing it. He did that literally 4 days ago, 5 days ago, despite the fact that there is countless amounts of evidence, not just from NGOs and international organs of justice, but also evidence directly from the State Department that shows Israel is violating human rights by refusing humanitarian aid to reach a civilian population that it is currently in a bombing campaign over, that is currently genociding. That to me is insane. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I feel like that is significant. That is infinitely more significant than like pardoning your own son. And yet, it is yet another glaringly obvious inconsistency in the way that our media operates, another glaringly obvious inconsistency in the way that our State Department operates, in the way that Americans in positions of power interpret hypocrisy or violations of the rules. Biden has been a serial violator of the rules. What a ridiculous, nonsensical position. That's why I couldn't believe it when, where is it? Nate Silver was like, this is my red line. Nate Silver came out immediately yesterday. I said, I discussed here how I voted for Harris despite feeling like the Democrats indulged in a lot of bad behavior that voters were rational to publish. After the White House lying about the Hunter pardon, I'm not sure how much more I can tolerate. I won't vote for any Democrat in 2028 that doesn't repudiate the pardon within 48 hours. To which I said, I like that for this liberal, genocide is not a red line. Pardoning Hunter Biden is. It blows my mind that there are people out there who are like, genocide I'm okay with, but pardoning your son, that's a step too far. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Yeah. Liberals, I can excuse the genocide, but I draw the line at pardoning a low-level criminal. You can excuse the genocide. I don't understand it. I genuinely don't understand how your brain can be this broken, how you can be this devoid of humanity. That, to me, is completely unacceptable. Like, that's your deal breaker, dude. You are such a monstrous scumbag. Oh, Americans are so weird, dude. It's just like, they're so selfish and they're so weird. Like, how do you look at so much death and so much destruction every single day and then turn around and go, yeah, that's fine. We got to do that. We have to do that. We have to let Israel rain hell upon undeserving civilian populations over and over again. But God forbid a president pardons his son for some low-level offenses, you know? So while on the one hand, while I understand the hypocrisy argument, especially not on terms of like lawfare, but especially because Biden himself is a person throughout his career that has advocated to institute harsher criminal penalties for low-level offenses in general, turning around and like pardoning his son is obviously ridiculous, especially when it's not packaged with any sort of additional clemency. But the very fact that we are more hyper focused on this nonsensical shit and lose our minds over this is so silly. Like, it's just, I don't know.
Biden Justice Department has been politicized. That's the message this morning from not just Donald Trump, but from President Joe Biden himself. The president issuing a full and unconditional pardon to his son Hunter after repeatedly insisting in public that he wouldn't do it. And to defend his decision, the president adopted an argument that could have come straight out of Donald Trump's playbook. Blame your political opponents and claim unfair persecution. President Biden said this, quote, "The charges in his cases came about only after several of my political opponents in Congress instigated them to attack me and oppose my election." The president adding, quote, "No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he is my son. And that is wrong," end quote. President Biden pardoning his son not just for the gun crimes for which he was convicted and not just for the tax crimes for which he pled guilty. Instead, Biden gave his son an extraordinarily sweeping pardon for any and all crimes he committed, may have committed, or even merely been involved in at any point in the last 10 years. That broad language, unlike any in recent history and reminiscent only of President Gerald Ford's pardon of Richard Nixon for, quote, all offenses against the United States, end quote, that the former president had or may have committed during his entire presidency. Trying to explain his decision to Americans, President Biden made a personal appeal. He said this, quote, "I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision," he said last night. Understand? Americans might, though they'll have to be forgiven for thinking that all of this was off the table.
Is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
Well, is there
I just said no. I just answered.
When will the president pardon or commute his son if he's convicted?
So I've answered this question before. It was asked of me not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and I was very clear, and I said no.
You've said before that the president would not pardon his son. Is that still the case?
Nothing has changed. That is still the case.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes. I said I abide by the jury decision. I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
I could speak for.
Also, Ested pointed this out earlier today, but there was an NBC article that buried the lead here, and I find it very interesting. But Ested says, don't really have a take on the Hunter Biden pardon, except I found this to be a wild admission. This doesn't sound like messaging or spin, but an explicit decision to lie. Buried in the 14th paragraph of the NBC story that broke the news. The president has discussed pardoning his son with some of his closest aides, at least since Hunter Biden's conviction in June, said two people with direct knowledge of the discussions about the matter. They said it was decided at the time that he would publicly say he would not pardon his son, even though doing so remained on the table. That's just like, that's just lying. I like that liberal media has a way of portraying this as though it's something different, but like, no, that's just called deception. It's called lying, right? You can passive voice lying as best as to the best of your ability, but that's just called, yeah, I'm going to pardon him, but I'm just going to lie in public until, the election is over. And liberals are losing their minds. Jonathan Chait, Biden's unpardonable hypocrisy. This kind of brings me back to another point that I make regularly, which is politicians lie all the time. They lie during campaigns. They overpromise and underdeliver. But what they choose to lie about matters. And what is shocking to me about the way that the Democratic Party has operated, especially in the last couple of election cycles, is what they choose to lie about. Trans women are a real woman. You're just a bigot like usual. What? Okay, this guy's hitting every avenue. All right, cool. Why do you say Bismillah before you eat pork? Okay, man. Anyway, my point is, what I've been saying over and over again is why do Democrats choose to lie about $50,000 in tax cuts for small businesses? Why don't they choose to lie about pushing for Medicare for all? If you're gonna lie anyway, just lie about good shit. And it's the same with this. If you're gonna violate institutional norms anyway, then do it for something good. Do broad sweeping clemency. It's so stupid. What's the point of lying, man? I don't get it. I mean, I don't know. It's just how you sell your position, I guess. This man straight up nuked the Democratic Party on his way out. Yeah. Okay, POTUS, now pardon the 3,000 people in prison for federal marijuana offenses, and pardon the 40 prisoners on federal death row, and pardon Edward Snowden, and pardon Leonard Peltier, not just your son. Yeah. But he won't do that. He won't do that. Leonard Peltier is still in prison. And as of July, he was denied parole for killing 2 FBI agents in 1975. Spent most of his life in prison since his conviction in the 1975 killings of 2 FBI agents in South Dakota. Pardon Assata Shakur. There are plenty of people you can pardon. I hate it. I hate that, like, the violation of institutional norms and rules only goes in one direction. And it's very annoying. It's only done for straightforward, self-serving hypocrisy. Leonard is my grandma's ex-boyfriend. How cool is that? That's fire. Kason looking like Tony Snell. I saw this. And I didn't like that they were airing him out like this. FaZe Kason was trying to ask Pokemon out in the DMs. We are more than good. Apologies for misjudging you in the past. You're cool. I owe you a dinner. No, not the FaZe boys, just us. How else can we become friends? That's so nice. We can hit up a Middle Eastern joint with the FaZe boys sometime. My treat, though. FaZe says, Kason says, Lemao, chill. I was just being friendly. Okay, everybody needs to calm down. Oh, come on, dude. Not the Kuzma tweet. Jesus Christ. Hey, man, she's a pretty girl. I was being friendly, but you never know unless you try. They did him so nasty with this face, too. Like, Pokey was making this face while she was replying. That's crazy. Listen, shooters shoot. Okay? FaZe Kason, salute to a fallen soldier. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. He didn't ask in a weird way. This is like he didn't say anything weird. He wasn't gross. He wasn't odd. Okay, this is perfectly polite. This is a perfectly polite and perfectly normal interaction. Okay, that's it. If you get mad at this or whatever, I mean, yeah, people are clowning on him, but it's fine. It's okay. Shooters shoot. She was texting him on stream. She wasn't trying to do it on purpose. Yeah, no, I don't think Pokemon was trying to air him out. All legal moves, no fouls. Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, I saw the Al Qaeda Twitter versus Islamic State Twitter beef. We'll cover that in a second. Yeah, you miss every shot you don't take. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Okay, and for Kason, he took a shot and he did it in a respectable manner. And I don't have any issues with this. No notes. You know what I mean? What an insane sentence you just uttered. Oh, the Al Qaeda Twitter? Yeah, hold on. We're going to get there. I'm tired of seeing y'all rich DMs. Wait, what? What is the... This is just because they're two famous people. Like, what do you mean? And also, in most circumstances, the DMs you see are gross. You know what I mean? The private affairs that many of these streamers or whatever, or rich people, wealthy people, famous people, their private affairs are usually not as normal as this. So yeah, I'm defending Kason. Anyway, but getting back to the pardoning drama
For the president, and he said he would not pardon his son.
Does the president have any intention of pardoning him?
We've been asked that question multiple times. Our answer stands, which is no.
Well, it stood until last night. Joining us now, Saleha Mohsin, senior Washington correspondent for Bloomberg, Isaac Dever, CNN senior reporter, Megan Hayes, former director of message planning for the Biden White House, and Brad Todd, Republican strategist and CNN political commentator. Welcome to all of you. Megan Hayes, look, you many of our viewers have gotten to know you, but you really do know this family. You worked inside this White House for a very long time. Can you help us understand how they got to this decision? Because I have to say, I've talked to some people who thought the president wouldn't get there because he was concerned about his legacy. Obviously, something really changed.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. I didn't actually think he'd get there till much later in the last couple months of his term. But I do think with some of the nominations that Trump has put up, I think it probably caused a little bit of worry for him. But also, I think people have to remember the president has lost 2 children.
Oh, dude, he gets to have it then. Yo, it's important to understand
already, and he does not need to lose another one to more political, witch hunts that the president's calling them. He worries about Hunter going to jail. There's a lot of things wrapped up in this, but I think at the end of the day, the president made a decision as a father to keep his son out of jail and out of harm's way moving forward.
Just to pick up on something you said at the top of your answer, you think the selection, for example, of Kash Patel played into this decision?
I think that some of these nominations that Trump has been putting forward and leaving this in the hands of other folks, I think is worrisome to the president. I mean, President Trump and Kash Patel have said they are going to go after their political enemies. They're going after retribution. I think that Hunter Biden has been seen as the person that they've gone after many times, and I don't think the president's going to leave that to chance when he leaves office. He, again, does not want to lose another son. He has lost 2 children already, and he does not want this to go on any further once he leaves office.
Isaac Dever, what's your reporting kind of behind the scenes on how this came to be? But also, I mean, we have seen some Democratic reaction already criticizing the president for this. I mean, we saw a tweet from the Colorado governor, a Democrat, Jared Polis, saying it's bad precedent that could be abused by later presidents. Congressman Greg Stanton said, I respect President Biden, but I think he got this one wrong. And then Joe Walsh, who is a former Republican congressman who's become a Trump critic, he was on MSNBC He put it this way. Let's play it because it's kind of a succinct way to look at it. Take a look.
So the next time any of us complain about anything Trump does, this pardon is just deflating. Nobody's above the law, we've been screaming. Well, Joe Biden just made clear his son.
Why is this such a big news? I don't understand. It feels like famous people news. It's because the media, also alongside the Democratic Party, uphold this false notion that our institutions are infallible and that no one ever does corruption. It's a very clear-cut case of corruption and hypocrisy. That's it. That's the reason why they love this kind of story, because it's a low-level story. Okay? It doesn't have any sort of it doesn't institute any sort of material harm to the regular order of business in American society. It's not like undermining the capital interest that corporations might have. It's a perfect paparazzi adjacent story for the media to cover endlessly. Okay? I doubt, even in spite of all of this round the clock coverage on it, I doubt that many Americans give a shit. Okay? This is but an afterthought. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, remember when Biden did this? This is a legacy ender. It's like, who cares? I don't care. I do, however, care about, the real violation of norms, laws, in defense of Israel, for example. Like, I think that is far more consequential. And yet, the media that loves eating this slop rarely ever covered that. Or even when they're covering this issue, they could be talking about like the ridiculous nature of how many low-level offenders are still locked up in jail for similar comparable crimes. Okay, and the fact that there is no clemency for them, like that's an angle that they could hit on this issue, but they won't, because they don't care, because that ultimately does undermine the criminal justice system. Right? That is far more consequential to the way that our criminal justice system operates. So the media's job here is to just simply propagandize and talk about low-level shit that is slop. Okay? It's just complete slop.
Hunter is above the law. Donald Trump lies every time he opens his mouth, we've been screaming. Joe Biden repeatedly lied about this. The politicization of the justice system. Donald Trump and his people have been screaming. Well, that's exactly what Biden said here.
Does he have a point? And what are you hearing from other Democrats?
This is the kind of thing that does breed cynicism in people. And it's that cynicism that in part Donald Trump plays off of in making the moves that he does when he says, look, it's all rigged against everybody. The Justice Department is politicized, right? And now Joe Biden has said that. His Justice Department under his administration was what was pursuing these cases, was what had gotten the guilty verdict in the gun case, and we were waiting for the sentencing in this tax case. That's an issue for Joe Biden to face now, when he has put himself forward not just as an opposition to Trump, but as someone who is standing on principle and on norms and on keeping in that way. I do think, though, it's important we can hold multiple thoughts in our heads at the same time, right? That Donald Trump will perhaps use this, and certainly allies will use this as justification or something to point to when he does things, whether it's pardoning people who were involved in the January 6th riot or other things. But it's not like Donald Trump wasn't going to do some of those things anyway, right? And so, but it does muddy all the waters of people who wanted to see Biden, if nothing else, as somebody who was standing up for all of these ideals that he was talking about for the last bunch of years.
Yeah, fair. Although we should also acknowledge, Saleha, that this is not the first president to pardon someone who he is related to in some way, including, I mean, with Donald Trump, it was an in-law. but someone in his family nonetheless.
And in-law Charles Kushner, Jared's father, who he has just nominated to be his ambassador to France. I would have to agree that there is a little bit of a precedent being set that now when Democrats are sort of trying to figure out where do they go from here after having lost so badly in the presidential elections and down ballot races, they're trying to rebuild the party, and they're left with an aged president leaving, former head of the Democratic Party after being president, and now he's done this. It's going to be really hard in the next 2 years as Democrats are trying to position themselves heading into midterms to also serve as bulwarks against some of Trump's plans, especially now that we've heard about his FBI nomination.
Brad Todd, you and I we saw each other on Sunday. We were talking about kind of the ways in which, Republicans obviously feel like the Department of Justice has been weaponized against them in political ways. Do you buy? I mean, Joe Biden is basically saying, look, he would never have been prosecuted if he wasn't my son, and that this is political as well. Do you buy that?
There's no question. A lot of Justice Department prosecutions are a result of the fact that the DOJ decides they can get press out of them. They are sensitive to media pressure. They're sensitive to political pressure. Joe Biden and Donald Trump are now saying the same thing. And I think that makes the case for why the DOJ has to be cleaned up. New ethos of operation has to happen there. But I think one thing about this pardon that's striking to me is that it's not for the gun and the tax charge. This is for everything he did in the last 11 years. Coincidentally, that's when he went on the board of Burisma, the Ukrainian gas company. I think that there's going to be a lot more investigation into what Hunter Biden's dealings were with Burisma, and now that he's been pardoned, he doesn't need the Fifth Amendment. He can tell us everything. He can tell us everything about his co-conspirators. He can tell us everything about other people who did business with him. A lot more is now on the table. And so I think Joe Biden, in overreaching here with an 11-year pardon, he may have opened more fodder for investigation from the House.
But that's the point. In the mind of the president, it seems that there was this fear that there would be vindictive retribution prosecutions of Hunter Biden under a Trump-run Justice Department. And look, it is definitely the case that some of the attention to Hunter Biden is because of Joe Biden. I remember still being in South Carolina.
It's kind of funny that they're still maintaining this position that like there's some there's something to be tapped into there. Like, oh yeah, there's still, maybe he's like secretly trying to pardon Hunter for Burisma shit. And it's like, I mean, they tried that already. I'd be shocked if there's like additional criminal misconduct that they somehow missed. You know what I mean?
Carolina the day after the South Carolina primary that Joe Biden won in 2020 when he turned his campaign around, and all of a sudden Senator Ron Johnson was asking for information about Burisma. So, but that's the way it goes. It's also the case that Hunter Biden clearly over the course of his career benefited from being Joe Biden's son.
Just watch. More people will be pardoned by this administration who dealt with Hunter Biden.
You're not going to believe it. We thought we had the show set, and then this happened last night. Fox News alert, President Biden's pardoning his son, Hunter. Right.
Chuck Dies, thank you for the 10 gifted subs.
Excusing any offenses the first son may have committed over the past decade.
Madeline Rivera is at the White House with the latest for us. Hey, Madeline.
Hi, guys. Good morning. Well, this is a big 180 for a president who has long said he will follow the rule of law. But the president says he changed his mind because he believes Hunter's charges were meant to break him politically. In a statement, the president says, in part, here's the truth. I believe in the justice system, but as I have wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infected this process, and it led to a miscarriage of justice. Hunter was supposed to have sentencing hearings on December 12th for his gun case and December 16th for his tax case. All of those now gone. But the president's pardon doesn't just cover these offenses. It covers any crime the first son may have committed between January 2014 to December 2024. And that time frame is notable given that Hunter joined the board of Burisma Holdings in 2014, and he has been scrutinized for his foreign business dealings. The president says he made this decision over the weekend while spending Thanksgiving holiday with his family. But NBC, which was the first to report this news, says the president had been talking about the possibility possibility of pardoning Hunter with his close aides as far back as June when Hunter was convicted on those gun charges. As for whether we'll get any on-camera comments from the White House on this, there is no press briefing for the next few days with the president abroad for his long-awaited trip to Angola. Karine Jean-Pierre and National Security Communications Advisor John Kirby will gaggle on board Air Force One today, still that is off camera. And remember, the president held no news conferences when he had those international summits last month in Peru and Brazil. Lauren, Steve, Ryan, and Ainsley, rather.
All right, Madeline, thank you very much.
You got it.
Maddie unfazed by the cold weather. I mean, she does
That's
the
right.
same
She's
at
ready for
60 as she does in 30.
And she ran to the White House.
Oh, really? That's fantastic. So we knew this was going to happen, but we just couldn't believe the audacious way it did happen. Number one, I think it took almost zero courage. You do it on a Sunday and then go to Angola and then take your press secretary with you. So no press conferences, just let the chips fall where they may. Pardoning your son, to me, is not shocking. Roger Clinton getting pardoned by Bill Clinton, not shocking. But never admitting that you were going to do it, saying definitively you wouldn't do it, and then going ahead and doing it, and then the letter that followed to explain what went into it is just full of...
There's nothing funnier than Republicans who have regularly demanded open corruption and have gotten it, and have also gotten mad when any sort of glaringly obvious and incomprehensibly stupid way of doing corruption is exposed. They say it's lawfare. It's like really f***ed up. I mean, everything that Donald Trump has done, demanded open corruption. Yes, Republicans have demanded open corruption. They have demanded that Trump is not worthy of scrutiny. They've demanded openly. Pete Hegseth is a Fox News commentator who very openly told Donald Trump to pardon war criminals. And he did. Okay? What are we talking about? And Donald Trump is now making him the defense secretary. Like, he's going to be in charge of the Department of Defense. Also, he's a rapist. So there's that too. Like, these guys, the entire modern right-wing attitude towards the presidency is like, the president should be above the law. The president should be able to openly violate the law. They should be able to do whatever the they want to do, and only when it's obviously a Republican. If it's a Democrat in charge, then yeah, they can't do that. That's not allowed. Yeah. Here, this is a great analysis of the way that like right wingers are approaching this. Dave Portnoy. Here, let's watch Dave Portnoy first.
I thought I was done with political rants, but I guess I got one more. This Hunter Biden thing, it's in the news. Everyone's talking about it. Joe Biden and the Democrats, after probably saying no less than 9,482 times unequivocally that Joe Biden would not pardon Hunter Biden if Trump was elected. The president would not.
It's perfect dumb guy fodder. You know what I mean? This is like moths to a light. You know what I mean? It's like so glaringly obvious as far as the hypocrisy goes. Virtually every single Republican understands why Biden did it. Okay. And I don't even think they personally give a shit about it, but they're like feigning this moral outrage in this situation because it's such an obvious, glaringly obvious instance of hypocrisy. Democrats try to present themselves as like norm defenders, institution defenders, and then do this shit.
Pardon or commute sentence for his son, Hunter. I just want to make sure that is not going to change over the next 6 months. The president's saying he would not.
It's still a no. It's still a no.
It will always be a no.
It's still a no. It will be a no. It is a no, and I don't have anything else to add. Will he pardon his son? No.
He'd have to go through the jury system. Nobody's above the law, blah, blah, blah. What's he do? Of course he pardons them. Of course he does. Not only that, it's like for 11 years. So anything he could have possibly done in the history of time, he is pardoned for. Now, I'll start by saying if I could do that for a loved one, a family member, I would probably do the same thing. I wouldn't lie about it. I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to protect my own. No shit. If Trump gets elected and they're going to make Hunter Biden go to court and investigate him, all this, yeah, I'm going to protect him. But the Democrats, Biden, they didn't do that. They're like, no, what are we, crazy? Now, this is the point of this rant. And I've been saying it over and over and over. And why the Democrats got slaughtered in the election. Because they think they're morally superior to everybody else. So any Democrat, and lots of them, whenever you say this, it's like, what a
I think this meathead is right, by the way. I'm in agreement with him. No, I do think that a lot of people, and even Democrats and people that like look at the Democratic Party from afar, see the moral high ground that the Democrats present themselves as defending. Okay? They do. Democrats present themselves as the morally superior party to the Republicans. And in many respects, because of how bad the Republican Party is, like, they're not technically incorrect. Okay? Democrats also personally like to see themselves, Democratic Party voters also like to see themselves as people who are morally superior, intellectually superior to the Republicans and the Republican Party voters. They see themselves as the good guys and the Republicans are the bad guys. This kind of shit, once again, is fantastic for people who look at the situation and go, whoa, I thought you were the good guys. What happened? We knew you weren't the good guys. And now you've proven it once again. You feel me? You understand where I'm coming from?
Liar Biden, the Democrats are. Can you believe it? They always, Trump, Trump, Your brain is broken. Your brain is broken. You don't get it. Because here's the thing. What the Democrats have done for, 12 years, have taken this moral high ground that we're the righteous party, the truth, honesty, integrity, and Trump is a threat to democracy. He's Hitler and he's a Nazi and this and that. And then the Democrats, whether it's the primary or this, time and again, they're worse than anything Trump's ever done. So if you're like, it's not that. It's the lecturing. It's the Democrats, this engine, just lying straight to our face, pretending they're the moral, righteous authority and thinking the American people are so stupid that we don't see through it. Blow up the Democratic Party. I'm not saying if you vote Democrat, you're liberal. And I'm saying the Democratic Party, the people, the talking heads who sit there and call Republicans trash and we're stupid, no strong women around Trump. This is why you got obliterated in the election, because you guys are all liars. You sit on a house of lies, a throne of lies. You're no morally better than anybody else. Stop pretending it. We see through you, and time and time and time and time again, your true colors come forward. So stop pretending that you're this moral, righteous authority and you're so true and virtuous. You guys are
Just rate the pizza, bro. Just put the pizza in the bag, bro. Stupid, the dumbest argument. I mean, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. You got to understand, if we're surrounded by dumb guys, if American politics is dominated by dumb guys, you have to understand where the dumb guys are coming from. And this dumb guy is not wrong. Yes, he is Lamau, but go off. I mean, he's not. He's not wrong. The only problem here is that he's like, yeah, you guys are doing corruption, and that's why I'm voting for the even more openly corrupt party. That's the part where he's wrong. Okay? Do you not understand?
The righteous party, the truth, honesty, integrity, and Trump is a threat to democracy.
Like, I say this shit too. I say this shit all the time. What do you expect? What do you expect people to think if you present yourself as like institution defenders and then violate those institutional norms for personal gain after lying and saying over and over again that you won't do that? I also think this happens to be more honest in a weird way than like the likes of Nate Silver, who are like, and this is my red line, sweetie. You know what I mean? Oh, I voted for the Democrats reluctantly, but I think I won't anymore. It's like, okay. Huh. Did you see this Vox article this morning? I'm surprised they mentioned John F., but not you. Why would they mention me? I am not a progressive group that has anything to do with the Democratic Party. I have no institutional influence. It would be journalistic malpractice to say the likes of Hasan Piker are responsible for the Democratic Party's successes or losses in any meaningful capacity. John Favreau, Matt Iglesias, and Ezra Klein have the ears of some of the most important Democrats in the country, establishment Democrats. That's why I laugh whenever people say like Matt Iglesias literally does have direct influence over establishment Democrats.
He's Hitler and he's a Nazi and this and that. And then the Democrats, whether it's the primary or this, time and again, they're worse than anything Trump's ever done. So if you're like, it's not that.
Okay, that part I don't agree with. Worse than anything Trump has ever done is ridiculous.
It's the lecturing. It's the Democrats, this engine, just lying straight to our face.
That part I don't agree with. He's definitely wrong about that. Why are we listening to this chucklehead? Because not only is he a chucklehead, but he represents the average dumb guy's opinion. Okay? He represents the average dumb guy's opinion, and a lot of dumb guys feel this way, and that has electoral consequences. Okay? If the entire marketplace is filled with dumb guys that care more about their own personal feelings over the way that the Democratic Party is conducting itself or whatever than the actual truth, then that's what matters. That's what matters. You need to understand where people are coming from and how they're arriving at these conclusions.
Pretending they're the moral, righteous authority and thinking the American people are so stupid that we don't see through it. Blow up the Democratic Party. I'm not saying if you vote Democrat, you're liberal. And I'm saying the Democratic Party, the people, the talking heads who sit there and call Republicans trash and we're stupid, no strong women around Trump. This is why you got obliterated in the election, because you guys are all liars. You sit on a house of lies, a throne of lies. You're no morally better than anybody else. Stop pretending it. We see.
I think it's the sanctimonious, smug attitude that Democrats present themselves as that very clearly is not the truth. The Democrats, if they behaved this way and they actually cared about the institutions, I guess they could at least have like some kind of saving grace. Okay, they could basically just be like, yeah, well, Republicans are pieces of shit. We do care about this stuff. And that's why, see, we don't do it. I still think it's dumb for them not to do it. Okay, you guys know this. I always tell the Democratic Party to behave like Republicans, not in terms of policy, but in terms of politics. Okay. It's ironic because Republicans are also sanctimonious and smug as well. But regardless of the ways in which the Republicans and the Republican Party carries itself, it doesn't read in the same way. Republicans love cancel culture. Americans, by and large, still think cancel culture is an invention of the left. Okay? Everybody loves identity politics as long as it's just their identity. Okay? As long as they can use it against their perceived ideological enemies. You understand me? They do this shit. Republicans do this shit as well, but then they also actively block and push, and they make it seem as though this is only just a liberal thing.
See through you in time and time and time and time again. Your true colors come forward. So stop pretending that you're this moral, righteous authority and you're so true and virtuous. You guys are scumbag liars, and you prove it time and again, and this is just the latest in a long line with Hunter Biden. Yeah, I would pardon my son too if I had one, if I could save his ass too. I just wouldn't lie about it like you guys lie about it. By the way, everybody knew the lie was coming.
I guess this is something that I've talked about quite a bit. And I think it is important for people to understand. Donald Trump is honestly dishonest. Okay? The Democrats, on the other hand, still maintain the aesthetics of honesty while appearing as dishonest in their actions. That's it. And when someone is honestly dishonest, openly a bad guy, openly toxic, that reads as earnest. That reads as more earnest than politicians on either side of the political spectrum, either side of the aisle, that are trying to maintain the aesthetics of real normal politics. And I don't think that there is any reason to try and defend this random principle that the Democratic Party is principled defenders of institutional norms and civility when they're not, and they shouldn't be anyway. They should just fight. They should fight, and they should win, and in the process improve people's material conditions. They should do that. I want a fighter. And I think that there are a lot of Americans who feel the same way that I do, but they don't do that. They lie about dumb shit instead of, lying about good policies like Medicare for all. And not even lie about it, but I think take it one step further and actually implement it. But it's like weird that they won't even choose to lie about it, because that's how captive they are to corporate interests.
everybody. It's pathetic. That's it. I'm done with, hopefully done with the political rants, but it's just so crazy. It's like, and then you'll see Democrats still trying to be like defending it. Just give up, blow it up.
I agree with this, but not in a way that right wingers are pretending to be outraged about. Democrats need to continue to ignore norms and lean more into vindictiveness and intentionally politically evil actions to suppress the right wing as much as possible. Yeah. And don't do it in this like pussy ass way. Republicans also, for the record, Republicans lie about this shit all the time too. What do you think happened when they were prosecuting Hunter Biden? It was lawfare on the other side. They did that shit too. Everybody does this. It's so frustrating. Everybody does this. It sucks. But if you're going to do it, at least the Republicans move the needle in terms of the legislative agenda that benefits some of the most insane people in their coalition. Republicans regularly use dishonest tactics to suppress the Democrats and lie about the Democrats and lie about their own positions. But they fight. At the end of the day, they fight for their constituencies. Democrats don't. I'm trying to strip this conversation of all of the important factors, okay, of any kind of like tangible material impact, and explaining it to you in the simplest ways possible, which is Republicans will do the same exact stuff that the Democrats do, okay, and have done time and time again, the exact same things that the Democrats have done. And they also act as though they're doing this at the behest of like some sort of serious standard that they're upholding. But the major difference here is that while Democrats and Republicans both do this, okay, and the Republicans do it way worse and way more openly and way more frequently. I mean, the Benghazi investigations that took a longer time than the 9/11 Commission that Kevin McCarthy openly said was done to destroy Hillary Clinton's chances of winning the election, and then gloated about it. Like, this is not new, okay? It's not. The problem is, in that process, the Republicans also offer some red meat to their base, okay? And the base feels happy when they get some of the electoral victories, some of the legislative victories that they can always point to. The Democrats don't do that. The Democrats' legislative victory is like marginal improvements, like the IRA, you know, Inflation Reduction Act, that is already, before it even gets out of the gate, it's like compromise on top of compromise because of internal party conflict. Okay. Oh, we can't increase the minimum wage because the Senate parliamentarian decided that it's not in the rules. Like, who gives a the Senate parliamentarian? Fire her and hire a new one that'll play ball. The Republicans have done that in the past. They did that at the time when the Senate parliamentarian was being called into question for tanking the $15 minimum wage aspect of the of one of these like simple majority bills that was being passed. I said this. I was like, the Republicans would never stand for this, and they have in the past fired the Senate parliamentarian for trying to kneecap certain aspects of their legislative agenda. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I don't know. I just think this this kind of back and forth is so stupid. Like, it's just a simple distraction.
Holes and inconsistencies that I think leave him wide open and leave his party susceptible
Brian,
to further damage.
in that letter, he said, quote, "I have followed a simple principle. Just tell the American."
Do you think Republicans are good legislators? The only thing they ever pass is tax cuts? First of all, you're the most wrong you've ever been. You can say that Republican agendas, as a matter of fact, align with the Democratic Party's agenda in terms of tax cuts and deregulation because they're still operating in the interest of their corporate benefactors. And therefore, the Democrats don't actually launch any sort of serious fight against them. And so the deck is stacked against the Democrats. That I agree with. But if you think the Republicans are not good legislators, you have not been paying attention. Of course they are. Of course they are. Are you kidding me? They literally, they're victims of their own success. It's not just about directly utilizing the federal government or directly utilizing the legislative body at the federal level, Congress. They have completely sidestepped and effectively neutered Congress. Okay? They use the judiciary. They use the judicial branch. That's what they use. They use state legislators where they can take advantage of redistricting and gerrymandering for disproportional representation and pass ridiculous bills. And if there's any sort of judicial contest against said bills, they can take it all the way up to the Supreme Court, where, as you've also openly recognized, the Federalist Society has already stacked the deck with a supermajority of far-right Supreme Court justices that will undermine the rule of law, break the institutions time and time again. I'm not saying they're playing fair, but if you think that they do not enact their agenda, you haven't been paying attention. There have been like 200 bills that passed in the state legislators against trans people when there's like 40 trans athletes total. Okay? That's number one. Think about the, signature accomplishment of Biden in terms of gun control. What did that achieve? They are so successful that they basically turn around and, find new issues that aren't even real issues at all, and then legislate at the behest of these issues that aren't even real issues at all to put even further numbers on the board. It's like they're winning. They're winning by 40 points in the fourth quarter, and they're still dunking. Okay, they're not even bringing out the second string. They're still going with their starting five, and they're just still pummeling. This is the way that the Republican Party operates. So to say that they are not successful in enacting their legislative agenda is just false. Republicans don't pass legislation. Now let me log into my VPN so I can look at Pornhub. Yeah. No, they don't have to pass federal laws aside from tax cuts, which is still, again, openly in their favor. And they are very successful at that. But they don't have to pass federal laws. They can undermine the laws of the land or federal laws by weaponizing the state legislative body, and then taking these bills up all the way to the Supreme Court, which they've already stacked. There is no equivalence on the Democratic Party front. None whatsoever. In terms of abortion restrictions, that was what the base wanted. That was at least a key part of the base. Really, really wanted that. Okay? And they gave it to them. Gun control. When is the last time we've had any sort of reasonable gun safety measures implemented? Biden will tout his electoral accomplishments with the shittiest gun control bill. By that same standard, by that same metric, Donald Trump did just as much as Biden did in terms of gun control when he made bump stocks illegal. There was a period of moment where they were talking about red flag laws and instituting them. Last time any sort of serious gun control measure was passed was 1994, the assault weapons ban. And that's back. Yeah.
American people the truth. No, you lied to us so many times, but about this specifically, you said you were not going to pardon your son. You said it over and over and over. You said you didn't know anything about your son's his businesses. You never discuss it. Then there's video or pictures of you playing
bump stocks, which no one in the right mind uses when you can spend $200 on a tax stamp for an NFA weapon. I think the tax stamp is more than that. Is it just $200? No shot. I feel like there would be significantly more automatic machine guns in circulation if it was only $200. I thought it was like $15,000. I think you're talking about a tax stamp for something different than that, right? The $200 is for suppressors. It is $200, but it does not cover full auto. Yeah, I thought the tax stamp was closer to. Hold on, let's look it up. What chatters are talking about is I guess one barrier of entry to like purchasing automatic machine guns in this country is the incredibly expensive tax stamp that you need to get. You're talking about SBRs and silencers that have a $200 tax stamp. Yeah, SBRs are still semi-automatic. But automatic machine guns, if you want to get a fully automatic machine gun, you still need to get like, I think you need to go through additional checks. Usually it's just people that have like, usually people only get that if they have like a shooting range or whatever. You know what I mean? Even fully automatic weapons only need $200 tax stamp, but it has to have been manufactured before 1986. You have to be a licensed weapons dealer for full auto. That's why a YouTuber can get it. It's a loophole. NFA automatic weapons themselves are at least $15K just for the gun. All are grandfathered, so zero new supply. Yeah. Because it's like after 1986, it costs like a bunch of money to get a stamp for it or something. The tax stamp is still $200, but there's other things you need, like a specific firearms license. Others can have them if they're weapons dealers. Yeah. You can get a FFL without an actual shop and get automatic weapons. I feel like there are, my point is there's a lot of limitations, whereas a bump stock, you could just like, in this country, a bump stock automatically uses, a bump stock changes the semi-automatic weapon into basically an automatic weapon by simply using the force against it. Okay. It uses the semi-automatic rifles. What's the term? Momentum. Okay. It's inconsistent and it doesn't really matter. It uses recoil. Yes, thank you. It uses recoil to turn a semi-automatic weapon into an automatic weapon. Technically, you could take a semi-automatic weapon, and if you're like fast enough, you could almost recreate. You could almost recreate the same firing speed of an automatic rifle. Some people do that. Okay. Yeah, if you just go, if you tap it really quick, some people do that. You have to be really good at fingering. Anyway, the point is, this little thing that you can purchase, this bump stock that you can purchase, is like relatively affordable and easy to access, much easier to access than the many different hurdles and the lack of readily available arsenal in terms of like an automatic rifle. Okay, that's it. There are barriers placed in front of people to go and purchase an actual automatic rifle. As a gun pervert, you wouldn't use a bump stock because it's too inconsistent with the rate of fire and accuracy. Better bet would be a binary trigger where it shoots once and you pull, it shoots again when you let the trigger go. Yeah, bump stocks are not exactly like even the initiative taken against bump stocks after the Las Vegas shooting was kind of silly because like they're so inconsistent. And it's just like, I feel like it's like a YouTuber thing. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, look, see, I turned my AR-15 into an automatic weapon, but it is super easy. Not if accuracy is second to fire rate. Yeah. You can very easily obtain an illegally procured fully automatic gun in the US, but it's not as difficult as you are trying to make it seem. What? There are simply less fully automatic rifles in circulation in comparison to the readily available semi-automatic rifles that you can purchase with ease in certain red states. And there's a reason for that. It is because of the many differences, or it's because of the many hurdles, no matter how small, placed in front of people that want to go out and purchase it. That's simply all I'm stating. And even then, the bump stock was like a gimme. You know, it was just an inconsequential part of the broader gun manufacturing interest. And even then, it's back now. They took it away for a little bit. It didn't matter. They even gave that back. Okay? Most of the conversations surrounding guns in this country need to be interpreted from the lens of the profit motives of gun manufacturers. I think a lot of even leftists who like guns, who want to their guns, forget that reality. That the reason why we interpret the law and have so many nonsensical opinions, so many nonsensical legal opinions that are genuinely harmful to American society on the issue of guns stems from gun manufacturers and the stranglehold that they have over the American judicial body and the American legislative body. The other reason, from a cultural perspective, is because Americans love commodities. Okay, they love commodities, and guns are a commodity that we fetishize. It is a cultural signifier. When you purchase a gun, you're part of a big club of other gun lovers and gun owners. And there is a, false interpretation of the Second Amendment associated with it. So now it's not only just a commodity, but it's also like there's a political association that you're engaging in. It's perfect. It's a perfect way to make Americans get on board with this thing as a political movement. It's very stupid overall. But the reality of the matter is guns are simply no different than a Gucci bag, except it's a Gucci bag if the Gucci bag's primary purpose was to end human life, okay? End organic, like end sentience, end organic life. So it is very dangerous and therefore should be regulated. And yet we will never get that regulation for the reasons that I just mentioned. Not having guns and knowing how to use them as a leftist is dumb. Wait, what? Oh my God. All right, let's move on from this. I can't believe we're talking about gun laws
playing
now.
golf with his business associates. You said you didn't know anything about your brother with Burisma, but he lied about this, and I think he was always going to pardon. He just lied because he was running for president, and he didn't want that to hurt him and affect the election.
He decided over the weekend.
Yeah,
so
but listen to this. Here's why I think that he thought about it, and he knew he was going to do this. The sentencing for Hunter is in a few days, December 12th. The sentencing for the California case is on December 16th. So you have the Delaware case and California case within the next few days. So I think he said, I've got to do this now. And he pardoned him for 10 years. January 1st, 2014, 4 months later, he started working for Burisma.
So, Ainsley, speaking of lies, the Daily Signal puts it this way, talking about some of the lies that have been said from the White House podium. It's transitory inflation. Afghanistan was a success. The border is secure. Robert Hur lied. Biden's fine. Those videos are cheap fakes. Biden had jet lag. Biden had a cold. Biden isn't going to be replaced. Biden isn't going to pardon Hunter. The great thing about this is that now it seems like the president of the United States agrees with Donald Trump, that there's corruption within the FBI and the Department of Justice.
He said the exact opposite.
Yeah, I mean, this is, are you not supposed to do this? Are you not supposed to run the numbers on the board? I mean, if I'm a Republican, I'm celebrating, you know? I'm flexing. I'm flexing all day, every day. It makes total sense for them to do this. You know? It does. It's yet another incredible opening for them to just consistently hammer the inconsistency in the Democratic messaging and how much they act as though they care about rules and the law, while simultaneously they very clearly don't care.
So maybe we can get something done about it. Now, finally, we're all on the same page now. So maybe we can get a new regime in to change this corruption that he's.
Well, you know, and Brian, you brought up the fact that on the way out, Bill Clinton pardoned his half-brother, Roger, for cocaine. On the way out, Donald Trump pardoned his son-in-law, Jared's father, Charles. But what's unique about this case is both of those people had served time already. They'd already done their jail time. This is to avoid jail time because he has not been sentenced yet. And so this is just essentially a gigantic get-out-of-jail-free card. Axios says they've got to break down why Joe Biden did this now. And what it says is for years, well, this actually kind of makes sense. For years, Joe Biden has felt guilty because he became president and brought scrutiny upon Hunter Biden. And there were investigations and all that stuff. And so Biden and Biden's family believe that the attacks on Hunter ultimately were meant to push him into relapse and imperil Joe's.
You got to be kidding. You got to be.
Give me a break. He had more opportunities than most kids ever do.
I am simply explaining their rationale for doing it at this time. So in other words, Joe Biden felt bad that his presidency caused Hunter Biden to get investigated.
But is Axios saying that's their theory, or are they saying that's the Biden theory?
That's what I said. So Joe Biden and the family feel that Hunter,
what his left
they
said.
believe that he was attacked.
Yeah.
They were attacking Hunter to push him into relapse and imperil Joe's presidency.
Everybody from all different sides. It's such nonsense when you have people from all different backgrounds that have had people that had disabilities when it comes to the drug addiction. No one's even talking about that. People are talking about the corruption and explain that to all the men that you put behind bars when you signed the crime bill, and now you want sympathy for your son. You had no problem locking up all these other men back in the day after you authored a bill. So spare me with the, this is because pushing him into relapse. No one even is talking about that.
And along the way to finding his international business dealing, we found hookers and crack.
Yeah.
But only thing people care about,
and he put that out,
is the Romanian billionaire, the Ukrainian Burisma deal, the Moscow mayor's wife, the millions coming out of China and the diamond rings. Those are the things that happen. By the way, this is the This is the most luxurious crack addiction ever. With crack, usually your life goes down. The more crack he did, his life went up and millions came spiraling in. The fact is he didn't pay taxes on it was an additional red flag.
Well, you know what, Brian, what you just detailed, those are things we know of. Essentially, this pardon, this unconditional pardon, excuses him from anything he did, and that includes the stuff we know about and the stuff we don't know about, ultimately. And earlier it was brought up that Joe has put his entire political party, the Democrats, in a pickle. Think about the Democrats. What did they do to Joe Biden? They got rid of him, running for president, and now I don't think he cares.
Well, he was. I think
it is revenge. Absolutely.
I think he was going to do it regardless. I mean, they just lied about it. Whether he became president or not, the son was not going to serve one day in jail, which is why the media should have been a king to what was going to happen. I mean, they asked the question, so I give them some credit for that, but they said he's an honest guy. This is a guy that would never do that. And by the way, the White House sold us 2 stories. They said that Hunter Biden was a successful businessman. And also that he was an addict as well. So the smartest man in the room that was.
If they think hookers and crack is bad, then what do they think of Pete Hegseth doing this? Pete Hegseth accused of chanting "kill all Muslims" on a drunken night out. They think this is awesome. Pete Hegseth has said basically this, but when he's sober and with not the same terms. So, yeah, I mean, obviously they don't give a shit when people do crack cocaine, okay, on their side. They just don't care. It's very stupid, you know?
Was also severely addicted to drugs. You cannot have it both ways. Either he was the successful businessman that had all these connections, or he was addicted.
I think
can't be both.
I think also he thinks that as a dad, maybe he's afraid to lose another son, and that's why he wants to take care of this son. That's more important to him than watching his son have consequences for breaking the law.
Look,
and also, I shouldn't be, but I am just floored at the just lie.
Yeah.
I'm floored that he told us over and over, I am not going to pardon him. So I thought, well, wait a minute. I don't think he's going to just let his son go to prison. So maybe he's assuming that Kamala will win. Maybe they have a deal. Kamala will pardon him in January. That way he can continue to say, I'm not going to pardon, I'm not going to pardon. But then you look at the sentencing. The sentencing is in a few days for Delaware and for California.
Just a coincidence.
It's right before that is when he decides to pardon.
It's just a coincidence, Ainsley. He was thinking about it over the weekend.
Over the weekend.
Yeah. You know what?
Planned this all along.
Honey, you know what? I can't have any more cranberry sauce.
Trump's son did coke on camera. Yes, it can be. What the fuck, lol? You can be both. And it's how you are often. How else can you be both?
By the way, give me the paperwork. I'm going to pardon Hunter. And you might as well tell him.
Well, we knew it was coming because just before the pardon, Hunter Biden's attorneys put out a 52-page paper called The Political Prosecutions of Hunter Biden. So it's like, okay, that pops out. Next thing you know, his dad says, I feel guilty about Hunter getting dragged through the muck, and so I've done this.
It's only political when it comes to Hunter Biden. Who knew that they were above reproach with everything else, but when it comes to Hunter Biden, then suddenly they become political?
Well, when President Trump tries to pardon the J6ers, I think he's going to have a lot less pushback. Right. He's going to say, yeah, you know what? I looked at it. They suffered enough. They actually went to jail.
Well,
so,
Brian,
in some cases,
it's not of.
Holy fuck. They're pumping it, dude. They're pumping it. Oh, they're pumping it. Imagine being paid millions every year to lie and distract on behalf of Epstein's best buddy. I mean, dude, every single person involved in American politics is so openly corrupt and awful and like so very clearly violate the same rules and norms as they like make it seem as though there is some semblance of rules and norms to begin with. All these institutions bend to your will. I mean, we have rules in the books that say Democrats and Republicans both. No politician is supposed to be trading on information that's not publicly available. No one gets enforced. How come we never enforce that? Like super simple shit. Remember when I said to the Pod Johns that the Democratic Party should use the federal regulatory agencies against those who very clearly against politicians, even in its own ranks, and certainly against others when they are in clear-cut violation. They should at least investigate people who are who have this like very glaringly obvious conflict of interest. I used the example of Joe Manchin, and John Lovett was like, "What? That's crazy. You mean like, you know, influence the regulatory agencies?" And it's like Republicans do it anyway. And not only that, but it's like it's for a good purpose, and it's just simply holding politicians to account. It's their job. There should be consequences if you're violating the rules that are in the rule books, you know? The problem is every single Democrat and Republican does it. Every single one. So, of course, no one is going to do that. No one.